Hey, I'm Suneel Gupta. I am an author and entrepreneur, and you are watching Sachin Syal's Ochakde show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Ochakde Show. We're Silicon Valley's first business and self-improvement podcast for teens, hosted by a teen, me. I'm Sachin Syal. I'm an 18-year-old award-winning entrepreneur, podcaster, author, and student from the Bay Area, and I interview remarkable and influential entrepreneurs, executives, investors, leaders, and inspiring individuals from all walks of life so we can learn from their stories and level up ourselves. I recently became an author of the book called Young Changemakers, and you can buy this book with Amazon, link in the description below. I'm also the co-founder and CEO of 3doshas.com. We're a coaching company transforming lives with 3 science from yoga and Ayurveda. The purpose of this show is to inspire you to go for it, which is what the Punjabi word ochakde means. Today we have an absolute legend, guys. Our very special guest is Suneel Gupta, who's an American entrepreneur and author. Suneel is a best-selling author, he's a TV show host, and he's the founding CEO of riselabs. In addition, he's a visiting scholar at Harvard University, and he's best known for his book, Everyday Dharma. Suneel was born in Novi, Michigan, and he holds a degree in information systems from the University of Michigan Dearborn, where he was awarded a full scholarship, and he also holds a JD and an MBA from Northwestern University, and he was a Tribune Scholar. So welcome to the Ochakde Show, Suneel. How are you, and what's new and exciting?
Sachin, it's good to be here. I can't tell you how impressed I am with the show that you have created. Well, generally the world you've created, and I'm sure we're going to talk a lot about that. But just I'm a dad. I have a 12-year-old and I have a 7-year-old, and as you know, like the world is changing so quickly that I think the number of options that you have now is so vast, and it's no longer be a doctor, be a lawyer. It's go do what you want to go do, fulfill your passion. And so I point them to the Ochakde show. I point them to you because you're certainly somebody who's doing that. So it's good to be here.
Thank you so much, and I really appreciate the kind words. I'm a huge fan, and I appreciate you making the time to be on my podcast. Let's start with the first question. Tell us about growing up in Michigan as a teenager. What was life like, and what were you passionate about as a teen?
Yeah, so I grew up in a town called Novi, Michigan. And Novi today is a pretty diverse place, but back then it wasn't. I was one of a very few, select handful of people that didn't have white skin going to my school, and it was different. It was different for me because I wanted to fit in. And I think that's something that I think a lot of us who have brown skin contend with, especially when we're in a place where we look and feel different, is to what extent do we want to fit in versus stand out? And I think for me as a teenager, all I wanted to do was to fit in. And so, I remember I would overwear Bruce Springsteen t-shirts that said "Born in the USA" just to kind of show how American I was. I'm embarrassed to admit this, but there were times when I would cake baby powder onto my face in order to look more white, because I wanted the other kids to accept me. That was my mentality back then. And wow, has it changed? Has it changed now? Like I mentioned, I'm a dad of 2 girls, and I still, I think about some of the things I tried to do back then to kind of change my look and my appearance, because I wasn't proud of who I am, and now all I want for my kids is for them to be proud of who they are, truly proud. But I will say that I've had some great role models. I grew up, as the son of 2 sort of immigrant engineers. My mom was Ford Motor Company's very first female engineer.
Nice.
She was part of sort of the migration of people who had migrated from the Pakistan side of the border during partition over to India. So she was in a refugee camp for those early days, but sort of no running water, no electricity, but had a vision for herself, which is she wanted to move to the United States and she wanted to become an engineer with Ford Motor Company. And, through hook and high water, she was able to do it. Got a full scholarship to Oklahoma State University, got
Nice.
herself to Detroit, Michigan, got rejected a bunch of times before she actually got the job, but she eventually got it, and met my dad through a fluke occurrence, which we can talk about, and we ended up growing up in suburban Detroit, and I have to say, like I look back on that life and I say I had everything that I needed in order to pave a path forward, and I'm really grateful to them.
Wow, that's beautiful. And both your parents have a very inspiring story. I can't wear a born in the USA shirt. I was born in Singapore, but I love this country. I think the American dream is still alive, and I'm really grateful to be living here. Yeah, I had a question for you. This show, mostly I interview entrepreneurs, executives, investors, leaders. You are an entrepreneur. You're the co-founder and former CEO of Rise. Can you explain what Rise Labs does
Yeah.
and what inspired you to start that company?
Yeah, yeah. So what inspired me to start the company was really my dad's story. When I was about 12 years old, my dad dropped me off to school one day, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to pick you up right here by this flagpole." And
Hmm.
he was going in for a routine medical appointment. And by the time I got out of school, he wasn't there. He was already on the operating table. And what happened was they rushed him. They rushed him straight to the OR because they noticed that his heart was about to give out. And so he had an emergency bypass surgery. We nearly lost him that day. What I remember the most is, days later when we were bringing him home from the hospital. I remember for the first time he was not driving the car. My mom was driving the car, and I was sitting in the back seat, and I'm looking at him, and I can just see him, and he looks really frail. He looks really old. It's almost like he's completely changed. He's a different human being. And I remember thinking to myself, like, come on, like, Dad, you got to be strong again. Like, you got to be a dad again. And lucky for me, he turned his entire life around. He started to eat better. He started to exercise. He learned what it was like to get good quality nights of sleep and how important that is for your health. All these things that we know now, but weren't as obvious back then. But the thing was that he always had a team of people behind him. He had doctors, he had nurses. We were lucky enough to have insurance, and it was because of that he is still alive to this day. So when I was starting my company, I wanted to provide that type of care to as many people as possible. And what we realized is that health coaching, having a health coach in your life, is a very, very effective thing. But we were realizing that people who had health coaches in their life, somebody who could, hold you accountable, create a diet plan for you, think about exercise with you, that type of thing was either reserved for people who were very sick, like my dad, or very rich. But if you were anywhere in between, the hundreds of millions of people who are neither, that type of thing was just out of reach. And so the mobile phone, the iPhone had just come out a few years before, and it was starting to revolutionize not just apps but services. And we wanted to think about sort of how was this going to affect healthcare at that time. We were very early, sort of in like what we're seeing right now for healthcare. So Rise was one-on-one health coaching right over your mobile phone, and we started to test that out in 2012. In 2013, we raised money for the company. 2014, we launched the company, launched our first 1.0 service, and after a couple of years of really struggling to make it work, we caught a couple of big breaks. And the biggest break was that Michelle Obama was building all her stuff around obesity at the White House. And she was looking for a technology partner. And we became that technology partner for her. I went to the White House, I pitched the team, and we forged a first of its kind partnership. Later on that year, we named Best App of the Year by Apple. And the year after
Nice.
that, we were acquired by One Medical, which was a large primary care company, and they were right about to go public. And that company is now owned by Amazon. So Rise is still up and running, but it's in Amazon's sort of healthcare strategy.
Sunil, take a look at this. This is literally why I reached out to you. Look at your story. You had a traumatic experience with your father who nearly passed away. Then you started a company. The company did extremely well. You raised money for it. Then you worked at the White House. You got accepted for that, and then it got acquired. That's such a beautiful story. Very sad, actually. In the Indian community, we just lost a legend from a heart problem. Zakir
Cure
Hussain,
Hussein.
yeah, tabla player. So honestly, like healthcare industry is so important. Um,
Yeah.
that's actually why I started my company. It's all
Yeah.
about Three Dosha is my company, my coaching company on yoga and Ayurveda, all about helping people, whether it's life coaching or executive coaching, mental health or even career-wise, you want to rise through your career. It's really cool that the name of your company or is Rise, because like if you look at my hoodie, look what it says right here.
Oh, cool. Rise
Yeah,
high.
Rise High. Yep. And that's one of my my mottos and my slogans. My dad was telling me like, "Hey, that's very interesting that the similarities between the two." Okay,
Yeah.
let's talk about your amazing book, Everyday Dharma. I'm sure my entire teenage audience is like, "Bro, what is Dharma?" So can you explain what that is
Yeah.
and why is it
For like,
important? Yeah, so what is it and why is it important?
what is and why is it important? So, Dharma is your essence. What do we mean by essence? It is this thing inside of you that wants to express itself, right? And the way that it expresses itself can be through career, it can be through community, it can be through
Hmm.
projects, it can be through side hustles. But it's a creativity, it's an expression, it's something inside of you that wants to come out. So for me, for example, it's storytelling. Storytelling is part of my essence. It's part of who I am. If I'm not telling stories, every day, if not every week, I start to feel like there's a fire that's inside of me, that is kind of burning up inside of me instead of lighting up the world around me. So, I feel like for me, my essence is storytelling. For you, I think it's about lifting other people. Like this idea of rise high. When I look at what you've built through three doshas, what you're doing right now with Ochakde, I think you want to empower other people to do their best work. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're not. That's
Yeah.
exactly why I started both. And then when I have mentors like yourself, people who have already been in what I've done and done so well, that's just honestly, I think what you said earlier in the interview, the world is changing so much. Like, how do we even do this interview? I guessed your email. I emailed you. It was your profile picture. You got back to me and we made it happen. Like cold emailing AI, the future is amazing. It's awesome.
That's pretty amazing, man. I'm
Yeah.
so glad you did too. I'm
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
glad you did. And so, like, think about your world. You have this mission, right? This essence, which is to lift other people up.
Hmm.
And like I was saying, there's lots of different ways to express your essence, right? So
Yeah.
if you're listening to this is my big insight. I always thought that when it came to purpose or dharma, really what it meant was you had to find an occupation, right? My dharma is to be a doctor, it's to be a lawyer,
Yeah.
it's to be an accountant. That's not what dharma is. It is taking this thing that's inside of you and finding ways to express that. And those ways might be different. So for you, you have these multiple expressions, right? It's Ochakde, it's your Ayurvedic company. I think you're an influencer now. You're doing
Hmm.
podcasting. Like there's a lot of different ways you're expressing your essence. So one of the things that we I think can do is we can start to kind of make a list of what are the things that we absolutely love to do, right? What are the things that we feel like if we could only do one thing for the rest of our lives, it would be this, right? And then
Yeah.
start to unpack like why is it that we love that thing? What is it that's drawing us to that space, right? And
Yeah.
then start to find other ways to express it. So I'll just give you an example. There was a nurse who I write about in my book, who had been in the OR for many, many years, and she felt like she was kind of stuck. Like she
Hmm.
she 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 liked her job well enough, but she didn't feel like it was her passion or her purpose. And she started to tune into like what were the parts of her day where she actually really felt lit up. And one of the parts of the day that she really felt like she was empowered, she felt joyful, is when she was filling out patient paperwork, right?
Mm.
Which I know sounds kind of boring, but to her it wasn't, because it was always an opportunity to write stories about the patient, not just their clinical details, but like who do they love? What do they love to do? Like real things about them, paint a tapestry about who this person was. And every time she was able to do that, she felt this like energetic flicker inside, right? And what we're doing with our lives is we're paying attention to that energetic flicker. When she noticed that, she started to lean more into that, and she started to write more. She started to pass her paperwork on to other people. She started to share her stories around. And, eventually she became one of the hottest screenwriters in Hollywood, writing
Oh,
medical
wow.
dramas, because she tuned into that little sort of flicker, that thing. So there's a quote that I really love. It comes from Steven Spielberg, which is that purpose does not come in shouts, it comes in whispers,
Oh,
right?
that's good. That's
Right.
amazing.
It's amazing because we kind of expect, like, especially now, especially when I was in high school and I was in college, I was waiting for this big bang moment where I was going to be told, like, oh, this is it. This is your passion. And it never came. And it was always very frustrating to me because I was like, well, what am I meant to be doing? Until I realized that it's not going to come to me in a big bang. What you have to do is you have to listen. And one of the easiest ways to listen is to tune in energetically to what are the little moments in your day that are giving you that energetic spark.
I think for me, that's exactly what happened. Because I don't even, like, if you were to ask me, oh, Sachin, how'd you even start the Ochakde show, your podcast? I wouldn't know how to answer it. I would just say, like, every time I sent an influential person a cold email and then I hear that email sound on my phone, it's them saying, yo, let's set up an interview. I get such a big energetic flicker. I think that's what it is for me. I don't know what it is for you, but in my opinion, I think it's speaking for you. You know, on your website, all the videos I looked at, I think you're a phenomenal speaker.
Thank
I
you.
think you're an amazing author as well. But I love that energetic flicker. I think everybody has that and they should just lock in and have tunnel vision on that one thing. And honestly, it can change over time, right? Do you agree that it can change and it's fine?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So it will change and the way that you express it will change, and look, so, it is impossible, I think, for us to live our lives with a map, which is kind of what in some ways we are conditioned to do. Oftentimes you adults, will say, listen, you need to sort of have a point A, point B, point C. You need to have sort of a roadmap to your life, right? And it's all
Yeah.
leading to sort of this red X. But the fact is that, like, things are changing too quickly to have a map in our hands anymore. The world is changing, circumstances are changing, technology is changing, and most importantly, you are changing. The way your tastes and your preferences right now are going to be very different 10 years from now than they are today. So to say that you're going to live your life with this fixed map is just kind of out of touch with the way things really work. This is why most successful companies end up pivoting before they end up becoming successful. This is why I think it's like 60% of successful executives have had career changes in their lives, right? It's because
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
changes, right? And so you have to stay fluid and flexible. So one of the things I like to think about is, how do I live my life with a compass instead of a map? Right? And so a map is really focused on sort of that last step, and your compass is really only focused on your next step. And that's all you really know. What is the next thing that I want to go do? And then be adaptable to, hey, like, the thing that happens after that, it may be related to what I've done in the past, but it doesn't have to be. In other words, your past can influence your future. It can inform your future, but it never determines your future.
Yeah. It's interesting because it reminds me of my story. Like, all this entrepreneurial stuff in my life started when I was in elementary school, selling candy, stickers, toys. Then I went to an eBay store, made like over $10,000. I'm like, I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life, man. I love this. And I kind of completely forgot about that, gave it up on that. Then I went
Right.
to a startup started by Sal Khan called Schoolhouse.world,
Oh
which is
yeah.
free tutoring. Then after that, I did this podcast, and now I'm doing Three Doshas, and now I'm doing my podcast in Three Doshas. And I get that energetic flicker when I send out cold emails and I hear back from people. I mean, it's awesome that like an 18-year-old in the Bay Area can just email billionaires that have been on my show and they come and they're there to support me. Like, I love that. And I think I'm going to put that in the title of the video, energetic flicker. I love how you said that.
Yeah.
Sunil, as we wrap up here, these are the last two questions that I asked all my guests. The first one is, what's your all-time best advice for teens?
Yeah. Yeah. My all-time best advice for teens is to play the game of now. What is the game of now? The game of now is a mindset where you're not waiting for courage in order to take action. You're
Hmm.
taking action and you're letting courage catch up along the way. Because
It's
the
awesome.
biggest mistake that I have seen people make, and I've now traveled the world. I've met with leaders all over the planet, but I also coach a lot of people who are stuck in their lives. Biggest mistake that I see people make is believing that they need to be ready to go do something before they actually do it. So they tell themselves, I'm not ready. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not ready to run with that idea. I'm not ready to speak my mind. I'm not ready to step into that role. Maybe someday I'll be ready, but I'm not ready right now. And if I could give you one piece of advice, it would be this. After now studying some of the most successful people on the planet, what I realized is that none of them were ready to do what they did. Like, three friends from design school, not ready to start Airbnb. Two bagel shop owners, not ready to become Ben and Jerry's. 15-year-old from Stockholm, Sweden, not ready to become Greta Thunberg. But they all play the game of now, not the game of someday. Don't wait for courage in order to take action. Take action and let courage catch up along the way.
100%, man. Very much agreed. I think, yeah, it's just, I wrote that in my book, actually. I said, I'm a big believer in like the phrase, stop thinking, start doing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really funny. Like, My first ever podcast interview when I was 13 in 2020. Reached out to a really famous YouTuber, a business YouTuber, entrepreneurship called Evan Carmichael. I had a little baby voice. I was like so young, and it's so funny because I didn't even have proper questions set up. That video got 90,000 views. That's my
Wow.
top video. And I
Wow.
could have said, "Oh, I'm not ready to talk to this influential, successful guy," but I just kept doing it, and now I have this confidence. Where like, I'll interview the president. I'll interview whoever. I mean, I love doing this, right? And I agree with you so much on that. I learned so much today. It was one of my favorite interviews. Last question of the day. So what was your favorite part of being a guest on the Ochakde show?
Oh man, just like getting your energy, honestly, Sachin. Like really,
Thank you.
it's
Thank you.
inspiring. It's inspiring, and even the story you just told right now about Evan Carmichael. It's like this is what can happen when you just act, right?
Hmm.
When you just take a step, and when we take the first step, it gives us the courage to take the next one, right? And it becomes this cycle, right? And that I see that's happened for you is that you took the step without really knowing if it's going to work, right?
Yeah.
And then something happens, and that gives you a little bit more courage, and that courage leads to more action, and it starts to spin, it starts to spin, it starts to spin, and this is how careers are made. Like, and I'm not just talking about successful careers. I'm talking about careers filled with passion and joy and like goodness, and that's what I see for you. So just spending time with you, that's been the best part of this.
Thank you, Suneel. I really appreciate that. And I'm gonna like rewatch this many times because I learned so much. Honestly, this was my most authentic podcast interviews. I don't know if you know, I closed my questions because it was such a genuine conversation that I didn't even need to look at my questions. But we're out of time. But I really appreciate it. Anything else you'd like to say to my teen audience before we say bye bye?
Now keep in touch with me. I'm just at suneelgupta.com. Spell it with two E's,
Yeah,
Suneel, and look me up. Keep in touch with me. Keep me posted on how your career is unfolding.
awesome. And I hope you have a blast in India. Thank you so much for watching the episode, guys. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time.
All right, thanks.